Are healers really in an unplayable state going into Dawntrail? Not quite. And before you prepare to rip me a new one, I do agree that healers should heal more, even in casual content like Expert Roulette, Alliance raids, dungeons, and everything else. And I even still, with those healing requirements go up, still think that healers should have more than one spam DPS button, which, because I get this comment way too often, which, no guys, I am not asking for the complexity of Old Summoner as much as I did love it. I do believe that the Scholar of a Realm Reborn is fully not coming back, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, it's just not. But, and it's a massive Cardi B-sized but, I do think that Scholar having even one, just even one more on the GCD damage over time effect to manage to break up the monotony of Broil and Art of War spam would be heavenly. Because I am so sick of casting Broil. In this case, the meme of why not both completely applies. I want to both heal a heck of a lot more and have more ass of my healing kit, because we do have those super spectacular combos and really awesome buttons, like especially on Scholar. It's like, oh my god, combining dissipation with other things and crit low spread, like, oh, it's so good. I love those moments. But for those less spectacular moments in between, we should also be able to do more than one button, namely Broil. Disclaimer so that I am not smashed into the dirt for public spectacle over. This video, I want to be real for a moment and, like, super duper clear, because I think things are way too negative right now, and I think that they're almost unrealistic. I'm genuinely, truly excited for Dawntrail, and my honest opinion is I think that healers are getting evolutionary baby steps in their kits that make me very excited for the future of this game, and that they are going to be fun in Dawntrail. If you currently enjoy healing, like in Savage raids and like Ultimate raids, or even casual content, like if it's something that you genuinely enjoy, you will love it in going in Dawntrail. They're just getting more steps added on top of that. All healers did get an expansion of their DPS side of their kits, at least one new ability related to it, whether that is White Mage's Glare 4, Scholar's Baneful Impaction, or Astrologian's Oracle, and, well, Sage frankly winning the DPS complexity game, if I'm honest. Sage got a lot. Like right now, if you're wanting a really technical healer, in terms of damage rotation, I would say that Astrologian with its OGCD card system is still probably the best for the Fear healers. Probably more like it is. And then Sage is definitely the better for the barrier healers, for the DPS healers, for the barrier healers. I personally think that's proof in and of itself that the developers are listening and they are advancing the healer toolkits to be more in the damage direction, and I believe that is going to be healthy for the game. And like I said at the start of this video, that is kind of really what I want. The healing requirements and the damage kits to both go up. Will I ever get over the Sage getting Scholar's Miasma 2 ability and Scholar not getting it? No. But baby steps, and I really do wish that they'd add Miasma 2 back for Dawntrail at this point. I just feel like, why not? The next thing is that I do like the new healing abilities. Mostly. I main Scholar, and I definitely think Seraphism is an incredibly powerful, incredibly versatile, and unique button that adds a huge amount of depth to the Scholar's kit, which is exactly what I want. I want to have a multi-tool that I can use in a bajillion different ways. Like, popping on its own is 700 potency of OGCD healing. Well, 600 to 700 depending on server ticks, and 21, it's only 20 seconds, not 21 seconds. 700 potency, let's go with it. Which makes it immediately hard to not justify pressing Seraphism, even if you're not going to plan on casting a single on GCD heal. Or you could combine it with other effects for a larger spread low barrier, pop it for an immense amount of pure healing alternatively, and there are many, many, many more fringe scenarios that it could be great in, like, hey, I just want to move. It's a great ability. This ability is awesome, and I'm excited to see how it combines with other abilities in Dawntrail for massively cool combos. Yes, the alarm bells ringing in my mind that casual content should get harder healing checks and requirements in order to let those combos happen more often and be more cool. But in Savage and Ultimates, I'm quite sure that this ability will become a kingpin of Scholar's mitigation plan, and that makes me excited. And even if I don't think Astrologian getting a 10% mitigation or White Mage getting a 400 potency barrier that then pops into heal over time effect are the flashiest, craziest, most outrageous effects in the world, I do genuinely believe that they are welcome additions to their baseline kits. Like, if I look at their kits, in the context of their kits, I believe that this adds depth to them. Like now White Mage and Astro can both decide, hey, are we going to supermint one large hit or stagger it for later? And White Mage never really had a large AoE barrier, and Astrologian getting another 10% AoE mitigation lets them really play more with damage thresholds too. It's not flashy, but they are genuinely good additions to the kits. Now there could be a good conversation around, would White Mage's barrier be better if like a little bit of the power was shifted out of that regen, which we know White Mage can dump healing like no one else, and put more into the barrier? That is a good conversation to have, but the barrier itself is something we don't really see in White Mage's kit. But let's be super real right now. I play healer right now. I like it. Like, I feel like this somehow is lost in all the details that people think for some reason that I'm not taking healers into content and the rest. Like, actually, that's a good, perfect word to put it. Rest assured that I just took Scholar into the Epic of Alexander for like funsies prog with friends. I cleared P9S through P12S on Scholar, and I was ramping up earlier this year to do DSR, Dragon Song's Reprise, on Sage. And how to say it, to this day, I take Scholar into expert roulettes and hunt trains, and you get my point. I do enjoy healing right now, and that's not, as some will probably say, me stepping back from what I said, backtracking in this video. I want more exceptional moments where layering healing boosts to make stupidly huge crit low barrier invalidates a mechanic. Please don't nerf me, bro. But like, the reality is, going into Dawntrail, I think that I'd look like the biggest fool if I said that I'm participating in the Healer Strike or that I'm dropping healing. Much as I love the Pictomancer, and during the media tour, I badly needed to take a step back away from the Pictomancer because I did truly, genuinely enjoy it that much, it doesn't hit the same as Scholar, and like the healing role does it for me. I'm not quitting healing. Real quick before my next point, because I know for a fact people will have heard what I said and get upset. People will say, so you're going to queue for content as Scholar. No, I'm not going to do that. How I do every expansion is very different than other content creators. I myself, first and foremost, I'm a software engineer at my day job, and this is a game for me, and I love it. And I love this game so much that my experience of an expansion is something that I will hold above anything else, including content creation. This channel is fun for me. I genuinely love it. I genuinely love the people that I meet, the friendships that I make, and stuff like that. That is what I get from this channel. It lets me meet new people, and frankly, given stuff that I'm not going to get into this video because I'm going through a really hard time, I truly love this community. I love this game. But going into an expansion, my main #1 focus for me is the story and enjoying it for myself, and that is not going to change. So am I going to queue for content as Scholar? No, I'm going to do what I do every single expansion and spend the majority of my time completely seeping into the story and staying off of social media and using trusts to do the dungeons to get more immersed into the lore because I like the lore bits. So I'm not going to be queuing in as healer, and it's very likely that I'm inadvertently participating in the strike, so I'm neither for it in that way or against it. I guess you could argue I'm for it because I'm not going to be queuing. Let's continue with the main thread here. I just know that I needed to say that because people will get way mad at me if I don't. So I do think the Astrologian rework is also great for the health of the game. And why I say this is because anyone who knows an Astrologian friend that did care about their rotations, which is quite a lot of them, like, it's normal to want to do your best in an instance, but my Astro friends would often complain, why didn't I have a Lord of Crowns with the rest of the raid buffs at the opener and every 2 minutes? I don't need the Lady of Crowns during this opener. Say I pop neutral sect and then I pre-applied a barrier for the group. Let's say that the Sage or Scholar doesn't want to spread their thing at the start for whatever reasons. Like, drawing Lady of Crowns in their mind was a nerf to their damage. It was not something that they wanted, and numerically, yeah, honestly, it was a legitimate complaint. It's hard when you look at the numbers and look at raid buff windows and all that to not say that it put them behind other Astros that just happened to draw the Lord of Crowns. That problem is solved. 2-minute windows for Astrologian are now highly predictable like every other job in the game, and yes, oh man, that homogenization light did start flashing in my mind when I said that. So, I mean, don't think I'm ignoring that. That is definitely going off in my mind. But that problem was solved, and this has been definitely raised as a problem. The other problem that was solved was card diversity, and while I do agree, don't think it flew over my head, that yes, there is a very set in stone purpose for the cards, as in DPS obviously get the buff, Save Lady for the healing, Lord during buff windows, and the tank 95% of the time is going to be getting the rest of the cards. You want the shield on them, you want the OGCD regen on them, like, I get it. But I do think in general seeing a unique set of cards is good for the health of the Astrologian. Now I have kept my moaning about it to a minimum. This probably should be its own video. But before we even talk about reworking the new cards and the system not meeting expectations, I still to this day think that the removal of Nocturnal Sect from the game was one of the most demoralizing things to happen to me as someone who did enjoy Nocturnal Astro. Because in the larger tapestry of this conversation of Astrologian, we are missing that Scholar still spams Broil. And at the very least, Nocturnal Astrologian provided the card system on a barrier healer, which broke up that monotony of barrier healer gameplay and easier content. And so, kind of in a paradoxical way, we've truly done like the Ouroboros, like the snake's eating its tail with the argument. It's just like, okay, Nocturnal Astrologian was removed, and so it's like, say, a barrier healer that wanted to have like a more interesting thing, well, that link was broken. And I do feel that painfully every time I spam like Broil, and then I'm just like, shoot, could I do anything but spam Broil, bro? Like, just give me Miasma 2 back. Like, that's how bad I'm grasping at straws, bro. I'm just like, Miasma 2. It's gone that bad, shoot. Like, this makes me immediately think of like the homogenization of like healers, and I see no reason why Nocturnal Astrologian couldn't be brought forward with a modernized kit. No, clearly its abilities back then wouldn't fit in the current game. Clearly they'd need to be modernized a little bit. And to be honest, that was one of the sadder notes when I was at the Media Tour for me personally, that I didn't really vocalize much, because I do think there is so much that I am excited for. Like, hell, the point of this video is to talk about that and be like, hey, I'm genuinely excited, and no, I'm not quitting healing. But no Nocturnal Astro, seeing that it's not back during the Media Tour was one of it really made me sad, because when you think about one of the few unique features of the healers is that we saw that Astro could like dive between the pier and the barrier, and we saw Astrologian completely homogenized and smashed into the pier healer thing. And my honest opinion, my thoughts on it, and which obviously are opinions, is that it was likely just to make it so that new players could understand the pure healer versus barrier healer distinctions and be like, oh, there's 2 pure healers and 2 barrier healers, rather than there's technically 2.5 barrier healers, well, 3, because it would function as a full barrier, and we have 2 pure healers. And let's explain Astra. Like, I think that killing that complexity in favor of homogenization just for people to understand is such a bummer, and that's really one thing that I hope in 8.0, I mean, I'm totally on copium saying that, but I'm hoping during 8.0 that they seriously look at reintroducing things like this, because it is such a unique aspect of Astro, and just seeing it even now gone is such a bummer. But I'm making this an Astro video without trying to, I'm so sorry. Overall, to finish the Astro with a bow, I do think that the current frame of the game, that the current card rework is healthier than the Astrodyne system, where every card is either play on a ranged or melee DPS, and this does open more OGCD weaves on other stuff. It's not perfect. Like, yes, 95% of the time those other cards are going to be played on the tank. You're right. Or I figure you're right. We might be proven wrong. I think that you could spot heal a DPS with a GCD regen, long as there's not an AoE coming out. Like, obviously that's a scenario that could happen. You guys know what I mean at this point. But, and there is obviously no RNG, and I think that there could be a little bit inching towards there without perfectly infringing on the like damage portion of the 2-minute windows. But that's the real kicker, is it's just like, we had that problem, we solved that problem, but do we want to go back to RNG and potentially reintroduce that problem? And I think that's really what the devs were weighing on their mind when they said, hey, we're gonna take RNG out for now. Love it or hate it, I can see the logic in it. Now, at this point, I'm gonna be super duper real. We're getting a ton of new content in Dawntrail, and I remember, because I was at the Media Tour's Q&A, and I heard it myself, and obviously I can't post the, like, literal like recordings or whatever of that, but it's just like, if you were there, I can tell you that there was absolutely zero ambiguity in their responses that 7.0 was the content difficulty and reward rework shift. They made that so painfully clear. They said that they were afraid of combining that, well, not afraid, but that they didn't want to combine that with the classes being changed at the same time. That they were looking at job homogenization being basically obliterated, that they were looking at diversifying the jobs and really giving job identity in 8.0, and that with the content difficulty being amplified in 7.0, they didn't want to make it even more difficult by adding the job identity rework, which is coming in 8.0. And so with that, and knowing that we're getting new variant and criterion dungeons, knowing that we are getting a new Boja, which I am so fudging hyped for. Like, sorry, I almost said the full F word. I'm trying, Lord, I'm so excited for that. You have no idea. That is like one of my favorite forms of content. I love it. But also knowing that we're getting new ultimates, we're getting new savage raids, we're getting new trials and all this other stuff, and that the developers, during the live letter that I did cover on this channel just a little while ago, did explicitly say that they are looking at like the main happy path of content, like the MSQ, like, oh, it's the MSQ, being what you'd expect and that you'd survive a vulnerability stack, but they were looking at like capstone level 100 content being a little bit more bitey, was what they were really getting at. That makes me optimistic that there are going to be more opportunities to express your skill as a healer. And obviously, I cannot verify that. Obviously, I wish I knew. And like, if I knew, I would be the first person to be like, oh yeah, heck yeah, be excited for this. But I don't know. But I can say that we do have good developers. They do care. They do listen. They do communicate. And I've always said it for years and years that the developers of this game are a blessing, because I have come from so many games in the past where the developers frankly didn't give and you know what I'm getting at. They didn't care. They didn't care one bit. In fact, your feedback was binned and almost seen as offensive. And so I think that we are in good hands. Now, do I think it's going to be as hard as some people want it to be? No. I don't think casual mainline content will ever be that difficult, but the way that they were describing it in the live letter was that they wanted it to be not impossibly difficult, but they wanted it to be a little bit more bitey. I can't remember the exact word they used, but it was something to that effect, that they want it to be like exciting. But one thing's for sure is I know that I will love progression raiding. I know that I am going to be tossing myself into the furry raid. Futures Rewritten is the ultimate raid series, and I don't care. I'm calling it the furry raid forever because the memes. And I know that that is going to be fun. I don't care. I'm going to throw myself into PF. I'm going to love it. Yeah, I mean, hell, I PF'd Uwu and like T randomly, so why not? And then people are going to be like, oh, that's great. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyhow, just for the memes. But I know that I'm going to do that. I know that I'm going to have fun. Because it's just like, unless they seriously deviate the formula from what we currently have, I'm going to enjoy progression rating. I like it. I like figuring out things. I like shoving things into spots and helping spot heal people. And I love that stuff. And that's not going to change. And I am exceedingly confident that in Dawntrail, I'm going to continue to enjoy the game, continue to enjoy healing. And so that's my honest opinion. Do I really need to add the disclaimer to the end of the video? Maybe to be safe. I do agree, in more casual content, healers should heal more. I believe, yes, if you're playing a healer, you're playing a healer, and you should be healing on a healer. But I don't just want more healing. I want both more healing and a little bit more DPS rotation. No, not the full complexity of like Summoner's old kit, which I did love, but I do think it's fair for Scholar to get another on GCD spell, like a Miasma 2, just one more other dot. We are literally scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Just something to make me not spam Broil, guys. That is not me asking for a DPS. That is me saying, I just want something other than Broil.